I wish to congratulate Ban Siang and Siang Jin for having this summit, which is the second installment after the first inaugural one last year, also in January, also here at the Spice. And I think that summit proved to be a very successful one, whereby many inputs and suggestions were given by all the property stakeholders as to how to enhance the delivery of housing, in particular for the state government, affordable housing, especially to Penangites. And in fact, it was so successful that we had to have a mid-year review. When I began last year at that inaugural talk, I said we want to see each other again next year. We hope that that will happen. That is happening right now. But even before today, we had to have one mid-term review, because there were so many suggestions that had not only been considered but actually implemented by the state to some form or to some extent or other. So we wanted to see whether they were working and what else could be done rather than wait one whole year. So today I'm here and I'm going to submit my report card as it were, as regards all the issues that have been raised. But there's one thing that the State Housing Committee, together with the Penang State Government, in attempting to reach out to Penangites in particular, as regards each exposed portfolio's work and our objective and aim, the Penang Housing Department has come up with a video presentation which I would like to begin before I go into my speech, for you to see what exactly our intentions are, and hopefully all the property players can assist us to make it a reality. So can I just begin by letting you see a small video clip? You all can see.
Ada rumah, tak ada tempat tinggal yang boleh. Kalau tak ada rumah, kat mana saya nak duduk lagi? 我的家的小孩子啊都长大了，还有我们还是跟亲戚朋友还有爷爷奶奶一起住，所以呢，面对房间不足的问题。
Kami tahu bahawa kejayaan sesebuah kerajaan adalah sama ada dapat memenuhi aspirasi rakyat untuk membeli rumah untuk diri sendiri. Jadi demikian, kerajaan negeri telah menemukan satu dana perumahan awam dan mampu milik. Dalam proses memilih pemohon-pemohon yang layak untuk perumahan kos rendah, kos sederhana rendah dan mampu milik, ada satu jawatan kuasa khas yang telah ditimbulkan, iaitu jawatan kuasa spek, di mana kita secara terperinci akan mempertimbangkan setiap permohonan yang telah dimasukkan.
Satu kawan beritahu, ambil dekat kaunter, and then isi form. Polisi yang kerajaan bagi pun senang, tak susah untuk semua orang. Tak lama dia tunggu, setahun dah boleh dapat dia punya kelulusan untuk dapatkan jawapan yang dah terima dapat rumah.
Nah, itu mana dia ambil semua dia warga bilangan. So warga bilang kerana pada பிரச்சனை என்ன கேட்டீங்கன்னா warga கொஞ்சம் Penang வந்து வீடு கிடைக்கிறது ரொம்ப பிரச்சனையா இருந்துச்சு. 5 வருஷம் சொல்லி இப்போ தான் 2 வருஷம் முன்னுக்கு நான் அப்ளை பண்ணியிருந்தேன். ஸோ அப்ளை பண்ணி 2 வருஷத்துல எனக்கு வந்து வீடு கிடைச்சிருச்சு.
Dalam pada ini kita mempunyai 12 projek yang telah dirancangkan di kelima-lima daerah Pulau Pinang. Dan daripada 12 projek ini, 2 telah pun bermula, iaitu di Bandar Kasia di seberang, di bahagian pulau yang telah dimulakan ialah di SP Celayak.
吃的享食的，而且呢，我们是有那个清洁工人去收拾，而且每个角落都会有这个 CCTV 监控着的，所以居民会得到绝对的安全保证。
Kawasan ini pun sekolah dekat sekolah menengah pun dekat kawasan sini. Ini saya nak hantar anak pergi masuk kindergarten pun dah dekat. Semua dekat kawasan ni, alhamdulillah.
Kerajaan negeri bersedia menyumbangkan 80% daripada kos perbelanjaan untuk mengecat bangunan, memperbaiki lift ataupun memperbaiki tangki air. Projek-projek kos rendah dan kos sederhana yang mempunyai masalah seperti lift yang kita kategorikan sebagai kritikal, kita akan memberi prioriti.
வீடு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வந்து நம்ம வேலை முடிஞ்சு வந்தோடனே ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருக்கும். ஏன்னா ஃபேமிலி பையன் இருப்பான் வீட்டில், அதே சமயத்தில் ஒய்ஃப் இருப்பாங்க. ஸோ வீட்டுக்கு வந்தோடனே ஒரு நல்ல ஒரு இடம் வந்து ரிலாக்ஸ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு மைண்ட் வந்து ரொம்ப பீஸாக இருக்கும். ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு இடத்துல நம்மளுக்கு இங்கே வீடு கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. ஒரு 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 சந்தோஷமான ஒரு ஒரு இடம் இது. ஸோ இது என்னோட கருத்தை தான் நான் அவங்ககிட்ட பகிர்ந்து கொள்கிறேன்.
Dia dapat kunci ya, paling best untuk pintu. Anak saya paling seronok lah. Onda rumah ni nenek happy juga. First time dapat rumah dia sendiri. Terima kasih banyak-banyak kepada kerajaan negeri lah bagi kita semua.
Kerajaan negeri bersedia membelanjakan wang pemijat supaya anda boleh hidup dengan lebih selesa dan lebih baik. Impian anda juga impian kerajaan negeri Pulau Pinang.
Thank you for sharing with me the video clip that I just presented, which basically for Penangites. And I think you know, under the administration of Penang, which is based on our principles of competence, accountability and transparency, CAT, we have seen a tremendous positive transformation of the state since 2008. And together with our motto, cleaner, greener, healthier and safer, this transformation has made Penang the most attractive state in the country to invest in. I'm very confident to say that we are the most attractive. However, this in turn has seen an acute demand for property, not only by Penangites, but also those outside Penang, because everybody wants a piece of the pie here in Penang. And of course, unfortunately, this has had a bearing on the prices of properties in Penang, which we have to admit since 2008 has seen an acute increase. Of course, I think this phenomenon I've said before is not just peculiar to Penang, but also to other urban states, Johor, Wilayah, Selangor. But I think Penang, because of it being very attractive, we have been hit quite hard. So, as I've said before, having this in mind, because you can't run away from the fact that property prices in Penang are going up. The state government, in order to ensure affordability of housing for Penangites in particular, have embarked on a two-pronged approach. One, the introduction of a new category of affordable housing, and two, the introduction of cooling measures to try and cool the market. I think towards this end, we have made our priority the provision of affordable housing in Penang, whereby the Chief Minister himself, Lim Kuan Eng, in December 2013 announced the new category that would be introduced and come into force in March the next year, 2014. So we are now actually 2 years into our initial announcement of this new category. So it's very important today when I go through the numbers with you to see how far we have come since then. I think many of the developers here who have participated with the state government on the affordable housing programs. I can see many of you present here. Dr. Alex is one of them. Dr. Albert is there. I'll go through the numbers. Let's review, see where we stand today after 2 years. But let me go through first on the affordable housing initiative by the Penang state government. It has evolved. Let me go to the beginning and let me take you through until today. Actually, the beginning, this process of evolution began from the 87 unit per acre guideline, which was actually approved in June 2010, whereby developers who wanted to use these guidelines were given a higher density, which is 87 units per acre, but they were required to provide initially a 20% and subsequently a 25%, 5, 10, 5 and subsequently 5, 15, 5 affordable housing component, initially priced between 200 to 500, subsequently reduced to 200 to 400. That was the start, the inception, the birth of the species of affordable housing in Penang. But it was not 100%. It was just 20% first and then 25%. And they still needed to comply with the 30% low cost, low medium cost component. This was then followed by the state seeing the need to have more affordable housing units in the market, whereby, like I said just now, in March 2014, after the announcement in 2013, the new category of 100% affordable housing was introduced, whereby the price range was between 200 to 400 on the island and 150 to 250 on the mainland, with size between 750 to 900 both on the island and the mainland. That was actually in relation to the public sector, that is the government. So when we came up with that guideline, we had several projects in the pipeline. In fact, till today, we are standing at 12, which I think we'll see, as I've said, about 22,500 over units of low cost, low medium cost and affordable housing in all the 5 districts in Penang. And I think I'll just show you this is our projects that we have. I think maybe you can go through, you will see it is in all 5 districts. Teluk Kumba, Jelutong, Cecil Street, SP Celaya, Sandylands, Bandar Kasia, Kampung Jawa, Ampang Jaja, Mandin, Bukit Mertajam, Juru, Ujung Batu. Just now, if you remember from the video presentation, I stated, I think that video presentation, the recording was probably in early last year, or first or second quarter of last year. And I stated only 2 projects have begun, which was SP Celaya on the island, and of course Bandar Kasia was our first pioneer project to begin. And hopefully after Dr. Rosli can tell us about the status of the project, because I think we are quite, we want to give priority to that, to see it being delivered this year. I hope that will happen, because that is actually the timeline for Bandar Kasia Phase 1, 520 units of affordable housing. But apart from that now, also Teluk Kumba, the first one, has also taken off. So we have, as you can see, 22,512. But actually, this figure is constantly being revised, because sometimes we want to increase the numbers. In fact, for Jelutong, we are actually in the midst of increasing it from 556 to a higher number. So this is a live figure. It is not stagnant, but we are not going to reduce it, but if need be, we will increase it. These are the 12 projects. Apart from the numbers being looked into as to whether we can increase on top of these 12 projects, we are actually in the midst of discussions for other projects, both on the island and mainland. I think no less than at least another 3 or 4, which is in the process of discussion. So the state government will continue to come up with affordable housing projects. And as I said, for me, just now when we talk about a review where we are standing today, 2016, to me this year is the year of delivery, because we have got timelines for all these projects. And if I can just show you our timelines. This is our timeline. If you look, the project number 1 will be Bandar Kasia. You look, total number of units is 11,800. It's the biggest number in the entire state, and it will be in Batu Kawan. But the first phase of 520 units is expected to be completed this year. So hopefully Dr. Rosli can confirm that later. And we can see in 2017, another 1,401. Kampung Jawa, Teluk Kumba, these are the timelines, hopefully can be adhered to. And finally, 2018, another 2,624. We're talking about Jelutong, Cecil Street, another installment in Bandar Kasia, Ampang Jaja. So this will be 2018. Of course, I say 2018 because that's election year. So we make good upon our promise. Hopefully by then we will have about 5,000 units of affordable housing by the Penang state government, not by the private sector or the federal government, by the Penang state government, working together with, of course, PDC. This evolution, as I said just now, we started with 87 UE, then we go on to the 100%, but the 100% in relation to the public sector, which is the government, continued, whereby in September 2014, I cannot say last year now because we're in 2016, I've got to get used to that. It's 2 years now, time is flying, so we have to really sit down and work hard. Everybody here, all the stakeholders, please remember that. It is 2016, so it's in September 2014, it's 1.5 years now. The Penang state government actually was the first state in the entire Malaysia to come up with 100% guidelines for the private sector. Why? We simply had no choice, because the federal government was just completely ignoring Penang, where provision of federally initiated affordable housing programs to Penang, because they say it's to the whole country, but somehow or other they forgot that Penang is part of Malaysia where this is concerned. So we're not getting any cooperation from them, so we had to come up with our 100% guidelines for the private sector, which was finalized and approved by EXCO in September 2014. And for your information, despite it only being some, I would say, 16, 17 months since September 2014 till now, we have got some nearly 9,000 over units which have been submitted by the private sector for affordable housing to date. So I think I would like to take this opportunity to just commend the private sector, maybe a round of applause for them. And we hope that this participation by the private sector in our affordable housing initiative will continue. I just want to come to the guidelines on the 100%. That guidelines basically was based on a plot ratio of 2.8, whereby if we wanted to also ensure size, because I think we are very concerned not to have chicken coop units. I think we see that phenomenon happening in places like Hong Kong. I don't know about Singapore, but we do not want a 300 square feet unit to cater for a family. That is something totally a no-no for us in Penang. So we have, on top of price, like I said just now, size control. So going by several options within the guideline, we've got several options. A will be coming up with 20, 60, 20 of 750, 850, 900 at 200, 300, 400, or 150, 200, 250 on the island or the mainland respectively. And B will be just a one-off 100%, the middle 300,000 at 850. So using a plot ratio of 2.8 at 850, you get 143 units per acre. That is the original guideline. We use the 300 because most, if not all, I would say now, except maybe the pioneers like Dato' Albert, most of them now just do the 100% at 300 because it's easier somehow or other, so they are using that. So I use that as a yardstick and benchmark to discuss what we have done. Now, of course, we have to incentivize no developer is going to want to come on board and do 100% because the margin is very minimal. So we have given two very major incentives. The most, I think the biggest incentive would be the complete exemption of the 30% component of the low cost, low medium cost, which I think was the biggest chunk of a cross-subsidy situation that the developers have had to endure in normal developments. So here completely exempted. And of course we have reduced the development charges by 2/3, which is from 15 ringgit to 5 ringgit. So these are the two major incentives we have given developers in order for them to come on board. I'm quite sure today the developers will ask for more incentives later in the discussion, but we will consider, we will look into it. But the main idea is if we want a win-win situation, because at the end of the day the consumer is the people of Penang and they deserve a roof over their heads, and if need be more incentives to be given, then we will consider. Now that would be the original 100% guideline for the private sector, if I may pause at this point in time. That was in September of 2014. And then, like I said, many private sector developers came on board, submitting applications for the development of affordable housing, numbering, like I said, up to 9,000. And then came the issue of providing name lists so that they can begin the process of selling, so that they can start building. And there were many hiccups because, like anything that is new, there will always be a teething problem. So we had to undertake a review, and that review was done actually from the second to the third quarter last year, which would be about a year into the guidelines, the original guidelines. And we found that at the end of the day, if the developers cannot get enough numbers, they cannot sell enough units, the project will not take off. And if the project doesn't take off, those actual eligible and truly needy applicants will never ever see that roof over their heads. So the entire process was somehow rather being stifled by several extraneous issues. And I think the main extraneous issue at that point in time anyway was perhaps the non-eligibility to be given a loan by the banks, i.e. a high bank loan rejection rate for this category of applicants, affordable housing, and of course traditionally low cost and low medium cost. But we talk about affordable housing because that's our initiative now. So we had to look into how can we look into this. I mean, how can we overcome and address this? Of course, at all the seminars and dialogues we had, I think even Radar Penang and all the other bodies, FIAPC, the chambers, they all consistently agreed with the state that the banks have to look into their lending criteria. But of course, we kept saying this over and over again, but to no avail. So we had to again look and see how can we do things on our own. Very lonely in Penang, we always have to do things on our own. But we will do it anyway. So what we did was, where bank loan rejection is concerned, we said, okay, if the banks, one of the reasons for the loan rejection is high is because of the income cap. They always categorize this group as risky. Of course, low cost, low medium cost, even more risky. And one of the risk factors is the income cap. Because your income is so low and your other commitments, they will look into all your other commitments, and you can't you cannot get to a certain threshold, so your loan application is rejected. Originally, we had income cap where eligibility criterion is concerned. You want to apply for 200,000, your income cap net, not gross, net, will have to be, that household income cap for 200,000 or 6,000. For a 300,000, 8,000, and for a 400,000, 10,000. So we said, okay, if that is the case, then what we are going to do is we will increase the income cap for the 2, 3, 4 range by, at this point in time, we decided by 2,000 across the board. So instead of 6, 8, 10, now it is 8, 10, 12. So hopefully the banks can let more applicants go through because the income cap has gone up for that particular price range. That was the first review. That was the first measure undertaken when we reviewed the guidelines. But of course, we are very sensitive and aware that by doing so, we would be neglecting those who have a household income cap of the 6,000, because that was the original idea. When we went to affordable housing, it was a move from low cost and low medium cost. Low cost housing is 42,000 ringgit with an income cap of 2,500. Low medium cost is 72,500 with an income cap of 3,500. So we wanted to move, we look at 2005, 3005, it's about 3 and 4. So we wanted to move to 6. That's why we had the first affordable housing original guideline. Income cap criterion was 6,000 for the 200. So now by moving to 8, 10 and 12, what happens to the 6? We cannot ignore, because there's still that range of households. So we still must address. So what we did was, the second measure of the review, which was consequent upon the first measure, was we introduced a new category of affordable housing, which is the 150,000 ringgit unit, which is also 750 square feet. But the difference is, it has no finishing. That means it's a bare unit, but at 150,000. And this 150,000 unit, when we introduced it, of course, we realized that developers might not want to participate or may shy away because the margin will be even more less than the 2, 3, 4 existing already. So we decided to not include it into the 100% guideline, but to top up. That means your 2.8 giving you 143 units, we increase to 180 units per acre on top of what the 100% original guideline was giving. For the sizes, let's say 300,000, 100% across the board, top up another 25, is around 25% for your 150,000, extra about 30 plus units, which will make 143 plus the 30 plus units, 180 units per acre. That was the other measure that was introduced late last year when we amended the guidelines. So that, ladies and gentlemen, in essence is the evolution of the affordable housing guidelines in Penang. Recently, just before the new year, I was visited upon by Reda Penang, who asked us to look into and review the 87 units per acre guidelines. I think I will be very frank here. The reason why they asked for this is because our 100% affordable housing guidelines has been a success. And that was impacting on the 87 UE players. I'll be very frank about it. I told Reda, why don't you participate in the 100% straight away? Well, it's there. No need to review 87 UE. Do away with 87 UE. Then they have their reasons. And being a government that listens, we listen. So for your information, we will be having another meeting very soon, whereby I'll invite all the those involved with 87 UE, not just Reda. I think all the other bodies to give their views. We are always open to listening to your concerns. So I understand there is a concern on the 87 unit per acre players, and we will look into it. Let me assure you that we will certainly look into it. So I just proceed. I think everyone here will agree. This entire affordable housing initiative, which began, like I said, if you look at the 100% affordable guidelines which came about in September 2014, appears to have come at a time when it is the perfect storm. Market is down, people are cautious, nobody wants to buy. I think everybody is facing that. Not only just affordable, entire property industry, we are facing it. So affordable also faced it. So it was not an easy task, very difficult. And like I said just now, at the end of the day, if a developer from the private sector, public government is a separate issue, but we're talking about private and we want them to come on board to help us. If they cannot meet a certain sales target, that project will never take off. And if that project doesn't take off, I repeat myself, because I think people must understand what I'm going to touch upon. They must understand the background. If they don't reach that sales target, that particular project will never take off. So the person who really needs a house, who has to go through that strict eligibility criterion vetting process, he will never be able to see the light of the day. And I think that is not very fair, especially in the very soft economic situation that we are in, which brought about the third measure that we have introduced when we reviewed the guidelines, which basically was to stimulate and invigorate the property market where affordable housing was concerned. So we decided we will open up a certain percentage of the affordable housing to the open market. That means they are not subject to the strict eligibility criterion, only subject to two criterion, which is you must be a Penang voter and you can only buy one affordable housing unit under the open market category anywhere in Penang, not in that particular project. That means in the whole of Penang, if you are going to come under the open market category, you can only choose one unit in one particular project. You will then be blocked off by housing. So that means now, even though you earn more than the 12,000 income cap, even though you already own a house, which are things that the original guidelines prevent you from being eligible, now you are eligible under the open market. But we had to do this because I was getting reports that the percentage of take-up, because of our stringent requirements, because we want to ensure only the rightful and needy get, was only about 20 to 30%, far from the requisite about 60 to 70% required before a project can take off. So we decided we have to assist, and we allowed a new category of open market purchases with minimal eligibility criterion of 30% in every project. And I think maybe the developers can share with me and confirm, hopefully, that this has assisted somewhat in sales for them to reach their target so that the projects can take off. Of course, some projects don't need to use this. I think Dato' Albert, yours, one of the pioneers, you have done very well, even without this. But we have to assist, because you started much earlier. We have to assist those who came in later during that perfect storm. So that is why we have introduced the 30% open market category, and I hope people will understand the justification and rationale for this. And it should be noted, this 30% open market is subjected to a premium. In all districts, 10% more than the selling price. So if it's a 300,000, in all districts, it's a 330. But in Northeast District, it is 20%. So your 300 will be 360. So if it's Tanjung Munga, Tanjung Tokong project, 300 will be 360. Bayan Lepas project, Teluk Kumba project, 300 will be 330. And this money doesn't go to the developer. The purchaser pays because we want to show that there is a difference from the 30% open market purchaser vis-a-vis the original eligible buyer who has to go through strict eligibility criterion. So he has to pay a premium, which, like I said, is 10% or 20% depending on the district. But that money doesn't go to the developer. It comes back to the state. But the state doesn't want your dollars and cents. We want it in kind. That means after calculation of that 30,000 or 60,000, that however many units times 30% of your entire project, that amount we want it to be given to us in kind in terms of the units in your project. So for the first time, ladies and gentlemen, the Penang state government will have a property bank, not built by itself, but through the developers. And I think that is the intention. We want to have our own property bank so that we can then, in every affordable housing project, It will be held by PDC, by the way. They will hold certain numbers of units that is actually owned by the state. For us to go back to the actual original eligibility criterion applicant, or we are thinking now of maybe to come up with the rent to buy scheme for those who really cannot get loans. But this is of course under discussion. But the point is, by opening up 30%, there is actually a benefit back to the state at the end of the day, on top of ensuring that the project is commenced with and completed for those applicants who really need a roof over their heads. I think I would be not wrong to say that the way forward where housing and the property sector in Penang is concerned is affordable housing. This has been described as the key growth driver, especially for the residential property sector, and has been acknowledged by several property news portals, and in fact can be clearly seen. I will show you some numbers now of applicants' names disseminated by the Penang State Housing Department to affordable housing developers, be it the state or the private, which is as follows. You don't have this? Okay, sorry, it's not there. Let me just quickly give you the numbers. We've got several projects, 11 projects in all, private sector affordable housing projects. The number of units in those projects total 8,433. And these projects requested for name list as far back as December 2014. That means 2 months after the original 100% guidelines, 1 year plus over. Of course, some later, the more later ones was right up to October last year. So from that time, from the beginning, December 2014, right up to October last year, we have got about 8,433 units being asked for names by the private sector. To date, in that period of time, the Penang State Housing Department has given some nearly 86% names to them, namely for about 7,249. It may not be 100%, but let me explain to you certain things, why I give you the timeline. Some applied as far back as December 2014. I'll give you an example. In SP Chelaya, a state government affordable housing project, that has 1,323 units. They asked for the names way back in December 2014. And Rama Pavilion also asked for the name in December 2014. Rama Pavilion, 759 units. SP Chelaya, 1,323 units. I give you the number. Although SP Chelaya had 1,323 units and asked for names, the Penang State Housing Department has given 1,750 names to SP Chelaya, Zubicon. That means more than the number of units. That shows the demand. Your question is, how come they got only 1,300 units? How come give 1,700? Because there are high loan rejection rate. So that unit becomes vacant, they have to write back, I need a name. But you see, despite the non-takers through loan rejection or other reasons, when they ask for the name is there. What does that say? It says there is always a demand for affordable housing. These numbers speak for themselves. Rama Pavilion, 759, one of the earlier players, private sector. December 2014, 759 names, 759 units, asked for names. As of today, I've given him 1,250 names. 759, 1,250, nearly 100% more. That shows there is a demand for affordable housing. Similar scenario for all the other projects. The only reason why we are at 85.9%, and it's not 100%, out of 8,004 and 7,002, is because there are some developers who have just asked for the names. Like in October and December, in September and October last year. I think Ideal just asked for the names October, September last year. So that we are still in the process of giving. But we have the names. There will be issues as to why the numbers are not filled despite us giving the names. But that does not digress from the fact that there is demand. Where the state housing is concerned, if you ask for name, from the numbers that I have shown you, we can give you the name. They're consistently coming to us, be it through walk-in to housing or through the developers who go out and market. They will then give us the name, but there is always that bank of applicants. There's a pool of applicants ready for affordable housing. But after we give you the name, extraneous issues beyond us. But what I'm trying to say here, and I'm driving it, is the fact that there is demand. Now, demand, I think it's important for me to stress on that. That's what I want to stress on today. I showed you the numbers where applicants are, what I can give you to show demand. I also can go to other stats that I've got. I think there's a recent report yesterday from Michael has from Rain and Horn. You did a press statement yesterday, I think, or today, whereby he has referred to statistics from NAPIC, and despite a drop in total transactions from 2014 to 2015, whereby in 2014, quarter one saw a total of 6,416 transactions valued at 3.78 billion. Quarter two saw an increase to 6,513 transactions valued at 3.44 billion. And then quarter three in 2014 saw a drop to 5,757 transactions valued at 3.5 billion. And quarter four saw an increase to 6,865 transactions valued at 3.4 billion, as opposed to last year. From 2014, it was fluctuating up and down, up and down. Last year, in 2015, there was a drop in quarter one to 5,637 units valued at 3.5 billion. A further drop in quarter two to 5,564 units valued at 2.84 billion. A further drop, this is the last number that we have, which is quarter three of last year, to 5,600 transactions valued at 2.39 billion. That means dropped Q1, Q2, Q3, 2015, 5,006, 5,005, and 5,004 units in 2006. Value 3.5 billion to 2.84 billion, quarter two to 2.39 billion. 2015 saw a drop. Despite that, this is the graph I want to show you. This graph is by price, and this graph is from 2012 quarter 3 right up to quarter 4 2015. And this graph will show you one very important statistic. That is, the total transaction there is 67,119 units. These residential properties. Throughout that period, 67,119 total, 21,318, 32% was price range 200 to 500,000. 32% of all transactions is affordable housing. That is another proof that affordable housing is the way forward. And if you look at the green line, that is affordable housing, 200,000 to 500,000. I think from Q2 or second half of 2012 onwards, it was the strongest. Everything else fell. Everything else fell, even low cost and low medium cost. I'll come to that. Affordable housing surpassed even low cost and low medium cost, which also brings about some connotation. Maybe people don't really want LC, LMC, but would rather prefer a proper unit, 200 to 500. These figures, these numbers speak volumes. 32%, 200 to 500, 2012 to 2015. But let me tell you one more fact. Even though low cost, low medium cost fell, for the price range 100,000 to 200,000, the number of units was 15,959. And for the less than 100,000, which is the low cost, low medium cost range, it was 15,777. Which means if you look at the entire 500,000 unit range and below, that means everything, not just the 200 to 500, 500 and below, including the 200 and below and 100 and below, it is 79% of the 67,000 units transacted since 2012. I think developers should take heed. These numbers are very important. 79% are less than 500,000 from 2012 to 2015. So that's why I say I think this is something that definitely will continue, especially now that the economy is soft. I think the demand will be for more affordable housing, and I'm quite confident to say that in the last few months, apart from our guidelines and the private sector coming on board, participating with us where our guidelines are concerned, those who don't participate with us also, I'm seeing a trend of the prices now being hovering in the range of between 400 to 600. This is what you call an adjustment in the property market, which I'm seeing, which to me shows the success story of Penang where affordable housing is concerned. And I hope that will continue this year, and of course for years to come. So, if I could sum up to this point, I still have some other issues to touch upon, but to sum up, the numbers I've given, the graphs I've produced, I would like to say I think we have succeeded in Penang, where the state government is concerned, in providing affordable housing, and also very importantly in adjusting the market so that the private sector prices will be reflective of the demand of the market. And hopefully the private sector here can assist the Penang state government further to realize our dream, even if you don't participate with us, like I said, if you do outside of the guidelines, whereby you're not subjected to our list, because I understand our list is very stringent, but we will continue to do that. So there might be developers who say, never mind, I won't participate with the guidelines because of the stringent criteria in the list, but still their prices are around the affordable range. We appreciate that, if I can say that to the private sector. Now, success story over. Next, challenges. What are the challenges? There are many challenges, as I said just now, which we already experienced from the beginning, the teething period, whereby we had to undertake a review, as I said just now, culminating in many measures having to be imposed and introduced to address those challenges. I think I just want to say that one of the other challenges that we have is the high loan rejection rate, as I said just now. For low and low medium costs, we have reports that is as high as 70%. And for affordable housing, up to 50%. So I have actually initiated a meeting with Bank Negara. They actually responded, and we met in November last year. Of course, Tan Sri Zeti, the letter was addressed to her, but she sent her assistant governor, Wan Inci Abu Hassan, and his entire team met us in Penang, and my team from the housing and several other elected representatives. And at that meeting, of course, I think there are some bankers here today who also were present at the meeting. I did explain that the lending requirements for the category of low, medium cost and affordable housing should be relaxed. I've always said that their argument is this is a risky category. But when you talk about risk, it may be a risky category in other states, in a rural area, but not in Penang. I think bankers are here. I'm repeating myself. Take heed. Hopefully you can go back. Not in Penang. Why? Because in Penang, when you buy a low-cost house at 42,000, the day you sign it, the second you ink that paper, it is minimum 100% more. Before the ink can dry is 84,000. Right or wrong?
Yes.
No developer will say otherwise. So Bank Negara must understand that. This is not some jungle area, this is Penang. 200,000 before the ink can dry, 350,000. Right or wrong? So there is no risk. Your security is in the unit. So that's why I try to justify Bank Negara, and I think Encik Abu Hassan understood. So at the moment when Bank Negara has its regulation, it's across the board. So I said we cannot work on that basis. Maybe certain states you have to treat differently, because the environment is different. The economic environment is completely different. So they said we will consider. The other important thing that I requested them to reconsider is to reintroduce the IBS for first-time affordable purchases. Of course, they said that is a policy call, which I think just now I spoke to some bankers. They said at the moment, no change, but still I will pursue, because this I think will be able to address the issue of the high bank loan rejection rates, and at the same time assist developers who are participating in affordable housing initiative. For information, I'll be meeting them again. In fact, after my first meeting, they have met, their officers and my officers have met. But I personally will be meeting them again next Monday. And hopefully we can see how we can work together to try and narrow the gap, because I think there's, in our discussion, very clearly another misconception, misunderstanding as it were, between them and us, is we have our strict eligibility criteria. When we select, we are very strict. When they approve loan, they are also very strict. So strict here, strict there, at the end nobody get the loan. So when I ask them to relax, they turn around and say, you also must relax. So I say, okay, both of us will relax. So we are looking into how we can do that, so that that gap will be narrowed. Because there are certain criterion that we impose which they are not even aware of. So now that we have made it aware to them, and we also are made aware of certain of their criterion when they consider loan applications, hopefully now we will see a narrowing of the gap, because I think that is what we are trying to do for the developers. Otherwise, not just the developers, even our projects, PDC, Dato' Rosli, at the end of the day, all of us can try to be heroes for affordable housing. But after doing all that, if the applicant cannot get the loan, it is a futile exercise. So I think this is something that we really have to address, and I will continue to engage with them. And I think there's one other issue also, apart from the loan rejection rates which we are addressing, that also have to be looked into. Apart from applicants who are non-takers due to not being able to get a loan, there are applicants who are non-takers due to other reasons, not because of loan. The reports I get, of course, is that, never mind, I wait and see. Penang State government going to have affordable housing at 300,000 forever. I don't buy now, I buy later. So they say then I become a non-taker, despite housing giving the developer the name. Then the applicant go and tell the developer, I don't want to, I am not interested now, I'll come back later. That is another reason why there is a high non-taker number. So I think we are aware of this, and I think we have to address it, because otherwise it's a vicious cycle. It will go on and on. It must be made clear that if you are an applicant eligible on our list, you must be committed to want to pick up the unit, because you cannot adopt a wait and see attitude, because then these projects will never take off. Come back again. If you wait and see, That means you're not going to sign the SNP. That means the developers, including us, PDC, will never be able to reach that required percentage of sales for the project to take off. Of course, maybe state government we can proceed, but I can understand totally where the private sector is concerned. So this other issue, apart from bank loan rejection rate, I hope maybe the private sector can give us some suggestions. But housing, we are aware, and I am open to having a meeting with you to discuss how we can come up with a mechanism to address this issue, which is also another very important issue, which I do not want to see stifling our efforts. So ladies and gentlemen, as I started out just now, I said we had several measures to look into the escalating prices of property in Penang. One of them, of course, was the introduction of affordable housing. The most direct way to control prices is to have price control. That is why we have the affordable initiative, which I've gone through in detail with you, right from the guideline policy to delivery, the problems, the challenges, and the successes, mind you. So I come to the other cooling measures. Just as a review, because we are here today, I want to let you know 2 years has passed since the announcement by CM and the introduction of several guidelines. I've spoken just now on affordable. We also have another measure, which is the anti-speculator measure. They are the ones that ruin the market. They come in, they buy en bloc, and then in a short period of time they sell, making lucrative gains, as a result of which making the market unnaturally priced. So we came up with one measure that is introduction of an approval fee. That means to the vendor from date of principal purchase. That means if I bought today a unit, after you go and buy, if I sell within 3 years, I am considered to the state a speculator. Of course, we don't say that, but you have to pay an approval fee to the state if you sell within 3 years of principal purchase, 2% of your purchase price. That means even though you sell at a lower price, not purchase price, of the selling price, within the 3 years, you have to pay 2% to the state. For your information, this started in March 15, 2014, which in another 2 months' time will be 2 years. And since then, our records show only 11 transactions were recorded within 3 years, which I feel means this measure has worked. Only 11 transactions recorded, as far as you're concerned. Of course, if they do it in innovative ways, which we cannot track, that's a separate issue. But our records at the PTG Land Office show only 11 transactions, and we've collected about 330,000 by way of imposition of the the approval fee. That is in relation to the 2%, 3 years of purchase. So we probably will maintain this measure, and of course we'll continue to monitor, observe the numbers, because we have to see the numbers. If a measure doesn't work, we have to always revisit. Apart from that, we have another cooling measure, which is in relation to purchases by foreigners. Purchases by foreigners, basically, we know that foreigners in Penang, in Malaysia now, is cheap sale because of our currency. So we already foresaw that, not that we foresaw such a big depreciation, but at that point in time when we introduced it in March 2014, our currency versus the rest of the world, foreigners could come in easily. So we had to control. So we introduced an approval fee for purchases by foreigners as well, which is 3% on top of the purchase price. And I told CM, I think 3% on top of purchase price is kacang putih for foreigners, because we have got income price cap for foreigners. The foreigners cannot come here and buy affordable housing. They can only buy properties that are more than 2 million landed on the island, or 1 million stratified on the island, and also 1 million for both on the mainland. So their properties inevitably are the high-end properties. So I told CM, $2 million, 3% is what? 60,000? I say 60,000, you go to their apartment or house, their TV on the wall is more than 60,000. I say, never mind, we start first. I say, okay, so 3%. April 2014. Now these are the numbers. In 2014, 177 transactions. We collected about 10 million approval fee. So if that measure was to work in 2015, it must be less than 177, isn't it? Then only it works. That's why we have all these numbers, so we can track and observe and monitor. But in 2015, from 177, it went up to 211 transactions. And we collected nearly 12.5 million last year. That means this measure is not working. I already saw this coming. Last year, I think Q3, I had a meeting with Radar. They had their views, so we just KIV. But now again, at this property talk, when I look at numbers, end 2015 clearly speaks for itself. This measure has to be revisited. So I will be forwarding this to CM and EXCO for their consideration as to whether we want to review, especially now, if we introduce this then, when we didn't have a 30 to 40% complete depreciation of the ringgit. Now, that is why we are seeing these numbers, 177 to 211. Probably this year it will even be more. So, we might have to look into this particular cooling measure. And just now I did say that the other measure where foreign purchases are concerned, they already have a price cap. We intend to maintain that because we are the highest in the country. I think federally it is half the 2 and 1 million. And only issue is for Seberang, at the moment is 1 million cap for both landed and stratified. But of course, I think we have to revisit the stratified because I have looked at the median price range of properties stratified in Seberang, and not many are at the $1 million range. So we are looking at reducing it to half, 500,000, and that probably will be done early this year. For all the property developers here, that is something new that I would like to announce. I think that would be all I have to say. I just want to quickly touch on two things before I end, which is, I think the theme of my speech this morning is, if they can't help us, you know who I'm speaking about, the federal government, we will help ourselves. I think that is the consistent theme you've heard from me today. But I think we must not adopt that attitude of, never mind, if they cannot help us, we will help ourselves. We must demand our rights. As taxpayers, we must demand our right to be given affordable housing by the state, the federal government. So I have been pushing for this from the very beginning. Prima, Perumahan Rakyat Satu Malaysia, since 2012 when it was introduced, till today, or rather up to December last year, I got some good information. I have been pursuing them. I have been hounding them because they owe Penangites affordable housing, because we pay taxes to them. And for your information today, at this review, I'm very happy to say, there's nothing personal. I don't want to argue with them. We look forward. We are waiting for it. So after such a long period, officially, ladies and gentlemen, in December, 2 applications have been submitted under Prima to Penang. One in Batu Feringhi, comprising 1,520 units, and one more in Kampong Custom, Bukit Glugor, comprising 1,124 units. So for the first time since 2012, after all my hounding and pursuing and shouting, finally we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel where Prima is concerned. But of course, this is just submissions now. They still have to go through the normal procedure, just like the state projects and also private projects. They have to comply with all technical requirements, and I hope they do. And if they don't, I will tell them how to. because we want Prima in Penang. So this, I think, today is something positive for me, and we hope to see more projects from Prima coming to Penang. The other issue where the federal government is concerned, and I think if I read Michael's article, was the issue of advertising permits and developers license, APDL. As you know, I think all developers here know that we have been completely KIV'd or sidelined where APDLs are concerned. In fact, I'm made to understand any application for APDL to the ministry, it bypasses everyone and goes directly to the table of the minister. And for APDL, usually once you comply, either it's approved because you comply, or you didn't comply because you didn't comply with one of the requirements, all stipulated by law, and therefore it is rejected. And they tell you why, what went wrong. For Penang, all KIV, neither here nor there, just because it is Penang. And from my records as of September last year, I see 47 more applications for APDL still outstanding. And out of these 47, my records show there are 10 applications which involve 339 units of low-cost housing, 1,167 units of low-medium cost housing, and 1,682 units of affordable housing. Why do this? Why play this political game? These are applications for APDL, for LC, LMC, and affordable housing for people who really need it. So it's a vicious and vindictive game that the federal government is playing where the APDL is concerned. We will continue to pursue. That's why I say, we cannot just adopt a situation of, if they cannot do it, we will do it. No, because we have our rights. And we will continue to fight for that rights. I will do so for Penang Heights. And I think Reda, maybe even FFC and the chambers, you also have to play your part. Why don't you put up a letter to the ministry? Say that this cannot go on. Put up a letter and say this cannot go on. It involves even LC, LMC and AH, affordable housing. So we hope this year will be a year that we see change where this is concerned. So ladies and gentlemen, my esteemed colleagues, I think in conclusion, it is clear that Penang will continue to be resilient where the property sector is concerned. Our competent, accountable and transparent administration, coupled with our state's motto of a cleaner, greener, healthier and safer, Penang will make Penang definitely the choice destination for property investors. In fact, the government, Penang state government will continue to prioritize the provision of affordable housing for Penang Heights. And at the same time, not just affordable housing, it is clear with our mega plans on transportation through our 27 billion ringgit Penang Transport Master Plan, which will see an enhancement in connectivity throughout the state, both on the island and the mainland, where road, sea, air, rail transport modes are concerned, and together with the prospective implementation of alternative modes of transport such as the LRT, tram system and cable cars, the property sector, ladies and gentlemen, has yet to reach its peak. If you think things are not affordable now, they will get even more unaffordable. So I don't want to be marketing for all the developers here today, but I think the properties here today in this exhibition, still it is an opportune time to invest in Penang for the long term. So with those words, I take this opportunity once again to thank all the participants for their continued support of the policies of Penang State Government, in particular in relation to affordable housing initiatives. I wish you all a successful summit whereby it is hoped much input and suggestions will be given in a constructive and civil manner so that I can take it back to the state government for consideration. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I think YB, the last touch on